let's make a homemade buff turkey. So what is a buff turkey? Well, back around 2010, shortly after Wild Turkey was purchased by Campari Group, Wild Turkey was undergoing a distillery expansion and needed to keep its production going. So in order to keep their supply moving, Wild Turkey partnered with Buffalo Trace to produce bourbon while their facilities were under construction. So the bourbon was produced at Buffalo Trace, but using Wild Turkey's mash bill of 75% corn, 13% rye, 12% malted barley. It was then aged at Wild Turkey for up to 16 years, and then sold off to non-distiller producers, NDPs, and then resold from there. So it wasn't a Wild Turkey product, it wasn't a Buffalo Trace product, it was sold off to these non-distiller producers and are currently under different labels. So that's what it really is. Obviously, I can't produce that here, but we're going to do a homemade version of that by basically combining the two of them. So for that, we're going to do equal parts, an ounce each of Wild Turkey 101. In this case, I'm going to use the single barrel version of that, the Wild Turkey Kentucky Spirit, 101 proof. This is aged about 8 years. And for the Buffalo Trace, we don't have the standard flagship, but we'll do one better. We have the Buffalo Trace Kosher Rye recipe, which is the same low rye mash bill number 1, and this is 94 proof. So you have your proof, combining the two of them, your proof will be in the high 90s. And your rye, because we know this is under 10%, this is 13, will be a little bit of a softer rye than normal Wild Turkey, but a little more than normal Buffalo Trace. So that's kind of cool. And, and so instead of using the regular flagship, and the regular, we could be using like the regular Wild Turkey 8-year or the regular Wild Turkey. Since I got to finish this up, we'll combine a Kentucky Spirit and a Buffalo Trace Kosher Rye recipe. Here we go. 1 ounce of Buffalo Trace Kosher Rye recipe for the buff. And 1 ounce of Wild Turkey Kentucky Spirit for the turkey. Mixed it up, and there you have a homemade buff turkey. Let's give this a nose. Very interesting. Kind of a nice nose that's coming off that. I would say, if I had to choose which is winning on the nose, I would say the getting more of the Wild Turkey nose on that. But let's give it a taste. Cheers. This is quite good. It's a nice mixture. Let me take one more. It's actually a perfect combination of a little bit more of the, the softer side of the Buffalo Trace Kosher Rye recipe with the bolder side of the Wild Turkey Kentucky Spirit. It could be Wild Turkey 101. I would imagine we'd have a similar result from using the flagship Buffalo Trace versus a regular Wild Turkey 101 or 8-year. But actually what we're doing is, compared to those, we, on paper, should be using a little bit of an upgraded version of both. So let's give this one more taste. It definitely miles it down, a little bit less of the bite from the Wild Turkey, but more than this, and then this gets a little bit amped up with the Wild Turkey. So it's a nice mixture of both. Combined high 90s proof, and, you're looking at age combined, figure it's 7.5 years, high 90s proof, and you're looking at around, maybe call it 11% rye or something like that. So this is a really good one. And you can use, of course, any combinations you want. This is just even 1 ounce of each. And, for a 2-ounce pour, do it however you want. But this is the homemade version of it. But what a real buff turkey is, if you can find these things out there, they're quite old. They could be really hard to find. I have not seen one. I've seen a lot of people making videos of them and getting them, but have not had the pleasure of trying one yet. So figured I'd make my own. And it's really good. Cheers.